What up? What up? What's going on, guys? I just want to do a quick live stream here. We have the Sweet 16 set, but before we get into that, I wanted to go through kind of a review of the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for the second round. As you can see here, I'm sitting here with the trophy. It's already customized, ready to go. So someone's going to be taking that home in a few days here, but we had some matchups. So starting out, which I won't spend too much time on, we had Theano Money podcast versus this podcast, Dead Man Walking. We did go on to the next round, 70-30 with 444 votes. I will tell you, I will need more than that to beat who's coming up next. We also had a matchup between the King's Hall and Theology Applied. This one started out pretty even, but the King's Hall just pulled ahead like crazy, 67% to 33%. There was 1,138 votes that was cast in that bracket, so a popular bracket. Congratulations to King's Hall for moving on. Apologia versus Here I Stand Theology. Yeah, that one was going to be hard for Here I Stand Theology, and it proved to be hard. 94% to 6%, so that was a runaway bracket for Apologia. They once again, for the second year, make it to the Sweet 16. 637 votes cast in that bracket, so they're going to have to step up their game a little bit. Didache versus the Plodcast. We had Justin Peters versus Doug Wilson. That one was soundly won by the Plodcast. Doug Wilson, 75% to 25% with 586 votes cast in that one. Real Christianity versus This Is Foster was another matchup yesterday. That was Dale Partridge's podcast with Michael Foster's podcast. And what do we have? 84 to 16%. So 84% to 16%. This Is Foster does a really nice job of just handling that one with 696 votes cast. And then the one that was the nail biter, the barn burner, the absolute one to watch was AD Robles podcast, versus Tom Askell and the boys over there at the Sword and the Trowel. That one was 50% to 50% with 9 minutes left. I mean, it was crazy. Also, the most votes for this bracket, for this round, for this day, 1,317 votes cast, and AD Robles pulls it out with 50.5% of the votes versus 49.5% of the votes. 8 votes separating the winner from the loser. That was a close one. And guys, what a fun one that one was to watch. A lot of people tagging and, hey, go vote for AD. Hey, go vote for the Sword and the Trowel retweets. And I like it. I love the enthusiasm. I love the energy. But AD pulls that one out. So congratulations. Took down one of the final 4 winners from last year, Tom Askell and the Sword and the Trowel. Man, what a great battle it was right down the line for day 3 of round 2. So now we have our Sweet 16 set. I'm going to read them off to you right now. Here is the Sweet 16 that are battling for the Reformed Podcast Trophy of 2024. Here we go. 16, Dividing Line, Knox Unplugged, Cooper Stuff Podcast, Cultish, Your Calvinist Podcast, Haunted Cosmos, Just Thinking, Theology Podcast, Cross Politic, Canon Press, Dead Men Walking, The King's Hall, Apologia, The Plodcast, This Is Foster, and AD Robles. Okay, so that's our Sweet 16. And guys, our Sweet 16 is sponsored by K&K Furnishings, one of the sponsors here on the show. They have decided to sponsor the Sweet 16, so make sure you go check them out. I'll link them up, kkfurnishings.com. If you're an organization, you're a church, you're a business, you need a home office. I mean, the furnishings these guys have relationships with over 200 furnishing companies. They ship nationally. They're going to get you set right. They're going to hook you up. If it's chairs, if it's desks, if it's bookcases, they will do consultation in person. If you're in the Midwest, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio. They'll gladly jump on a Zoom call and figure out exactly what you need if you're anywhere else in the country. They ship nationally, and these guys are experts. They know exactly what you need, how to design a room, chairs, like I said, bookcases, desks, lamps, all those things. Make sure you check out K&K Furnishings. Happy to have them as a sponsor. Brother in the Lord, 32 years of pastoral ministry experience between the two owners, and many, many years of experience in the furnishing business. So KNKFurnishings.com. Check them out. All right, Sweet 16. Here we go. Let's run through the matchups. Dividing Line versus Knox Unplugged. This is going to be a tough bracket for Chocolate Knox and Knox Unplugged. I mean, Dividing Line, James White, he's the reigning champ. He is the bracket to beat, or he is the podcast to beat. He has a large following on Twitter. So Chocolate Knox, if you're watching, hope you do well in that. But boy, that's going to be an uphill battle. If you can beat him, that'll be the upset. But that's what the Sweet 16 is all about. You start getting down to some really serious contenders. Next bracket is Cooper Stuff Podcast versus Cultish. This one will be a close one. I'm just going to predict it now. It's going to be within 5 percentage points because both have a very active following on Twitter. And you guys are going to vote at these at Real DMW Podcast. It's on the pictures and the flyers that we put out. And Cultish has a huge following and still super popular. And that one's going to come down to the wire, I think. Your Calvinist Podcast versus Haunted Cosmos. Guys, Keith Foskey of Your Calvinist Podcast, huge following on TikTok, on YouTube. We're going to see right now if his millions of views are going to convert into many, many votes, because guys, he is up against, I don't even know if you could call Haunted Cosmos the dark horse. They have just readily obliterated anyone who's been in their bracket. I mean, Haunted Cosmos, sure, Dividing Line has the championship from last year, but Haunted Cosmos looks like the podcast to beat right now. The popularity is insane. Those guys are voting. So Your Calvinist Podcast, very popular on other social media platforms. Will that popularity translate to votes for him? So that is going to be the one to watch too. Your Calvinist Podcast versus Haunted Cosmos. The king of amillennialism versus Haunted Cosmos, the king of reform podcasts right now. Just Thinking versus Theology Podcast. I love this matchup because probably some of the smartest guys in podcasting in theology podcast, as well as Just Thinking. Like Daryl and Virgil 3-4 years ago when I first started listening to Just Thinking, just so much knowledge, so much intellect, and both of those intellectual podcasts are going up against each other. So I think that's really going to be a who's who bracket of, philosophy, history nerds, theology nerds. Like Just Thinking versus Theology podcast is going to be good. This one, and kind of an in-house bracket, Cross Politic versus Canon Press. Can Cross Politic hold out against the Canon Press podcast arsenal? I mean, this one's going to be crazy. This is going to be a house divided. Let's watch this one. Going to absolutely love it. Dead Men Walking versus King's Hall. I'm just going to concede right now. I have no qualms about it. I think the King's Hall is going to crush this podcast. I was listening to some of their episodes yesterday. Phenomenally produced, phenomenally written, just like Haunted Cosmos. When I say just like, I just mean in those two aspects. They're very different in what they discuss. But King's Hall versus Dead Men Walking. If you got to vote for me, that's fine. I get it. But I would not be mad if you said, you want to what? I want to see King's Hall go on to the next round. Next bracket, Apologia versus Plodcast. So here we have Arizona versus Idaho. We have Jeff Durbin versus Doug Wilson. This is going to be a banger. Apologia made it to the final 2 last year, but we have a lot more podcasts. Plodcast was not in this last year. So the Plodcast podcast, I just like saying that. I don't even know if it's called that, but Plodcast versus Apologia. Guys, watch that bracket. And then this is Foster versus A.D. Robles. Man, talk about a bracket there. AD Robles just coming off a huge victory against the Sword and the Trowel. This is Foster coming off a huge victory of against Real Christianity. This is going to be one of the last brackets that we want to watch going into the Sweet 16. So we have 8 matchups. We're going to do 4 matchups a day for the next 2 days. So today, after this live video, within minutes, I'm going to post for voting the first 4 matchups. So today you will be seeing Dividing Line versus Knox Unplugged, Cooper Stuff versus Cultish, Your Calvinist versus Haunted Cosmos, and Just Thinking versus Theology Podcast. Tomorrow, you will see Cross Politic versus Canon Press, Dead Men Walking versus the King's Hall, Apologia versus the Plodcast, and then This is Foster versus AD Robles. So today is the first 4 of the 8 matchups. Tomorrow is the next 4. The first matchup. So Friday morning, we will have our Elite 8 set. And I will be doing a video on Friday. So guys, for the next 2 days, we're going to be voting on the Sweet 16. We have 8 matchups, 4 today, 4 tomorrow. We'll start them as soon as this live video ends. So guys, get voting so I can send out this trophy to the winner, which will be just in a couple days now. So we are in our Sweet 16. Get voting. We had a lot of good votes in the round of 32. So here we go. Remember, you can only vote at Real DMW Podcast. Excuse me. This is going out everywhere. We put it on Instagram. We put it on YouTube. We put it on Facebook. But you can only vote at Real DMW Podcast. Make sure you're following. Make sure you vote for your favorite podcast in the Sweet 16. Once again, I'm going to run down them real quick for those of you who just jumped on. We have Dividing Line versus Knox Unplugged. That's today. Cooper Stuff Podcast versus Cultish. That's today. Your Calvinist Podcast versus Haunted Cosmos. That's a matchup today. Just Thinking versus Theology Podcast. That's a matchup today. Tomorrow, the matchups will be for the second half of the Sweet 16. Cross Politic versus Canon Press. That's tomorrow. Dead Men Walking versus the King's Hall. That's tomorrow. Apologia versus the Plodcast Podcast. That's tomorrow. And then finishing up is This is Foster versus AD Robles. That's tomorrow. So guys, get out there and vote. I will just bring this to the stage so you can see it if you want to look at it in the end. This is the old one. I'm sorry. I'm not going to bring that. I'm going to I'm going to remove that. I'm sorry. So guys, I thought I had the new one around here somewhere. We'll share it tomorrow. But anyway, Sweet 16 brought to you by K&K Furnishings. Go check them out, kkfurnishings.com. They're going to help you out with anything you need for your home office, your nonprofit, your church, chairs, desks, lamps. I mean, you name it, drawers, they got it, bookcases. Go check them out, and I will link them up as well. So, guys, go vote. Here we go, Sweet 16. Who's going to get the trophy? God bless.